move to the next presentation by Srimati Anuradha ji on meditation in Akshamalika Upanishad.
Namaste. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Akaradi Shakaranta Varna Jata Kalevaram Vikalevara Kaivalyam Ramachandra Padam Bhaje. So this paper actually examines the technique of meditating upon the Sanskrit alphabets as prescribed in the Akshamalika Upanishad. Shastriji just talked about Vag Veda and Vag Dhyana, and this is a small presentation in this on this Upanishad. I think a lot of people must have, many speakers before me have covered this, but I just want to briefly touch that dhyana, meditation, which is also called dhyana and upasana, is a very important anga of in the Hindu tradition, and it is one of the angas of Ashtanga Yoga. And Patanjali says that meditation is an unbroken flow of thought towards the object with concentration. And Shankara in his Bhagavad Gita Bhashya says that upasana means a prolonged state characterized by the flow of an identical idea, like the flow of oil after the mind takes up a theme as its object in conformity with Shastric prescriptions. That means there's a single idea in line with the Shastras. Meditating is that. There are two types of upasanas in the Hindu tradition. Saguna upasana, where you meditate upon the form of God, the symbol of God, the name of God. And the result of this is punya and the purification of mind. So japa, manasa puja are some of the practices of Saguna upasana. In Nirguna upasana, one meditates upon the nature of Atman or Brahman, and self-realization is the fruit of such a meditation. This is also sometimes called nididhyasana. Before we move on to Akshamalika Upanishad, a brief discussion on the importance of sound, because alphabets are the basis of sound. So in the Hindu tradition, sound is very important. Sound is the basis of creation. Sound is Ishvara. The Sharada Tilaka Tantram in its very first verse says, "Let the Supreme Being protect us, the Supreme Being which is ever enduring bliss, from which emerge the 50 alphabets that pervade the universe of movable and immovable objects. The wise call it Shabda Brahman, which is also the Chaitanya." So basically, the universe comprises of these alphabets. These alphabets are the same as Shabda Brahman and the same as Chaitanya Swarupa. We highlight Vak as a deity, as a goddess. And the Rig Veda says that I am the queen, the confluence of riches, the skillful one who is first among those worthy of sacrifices. The gods divided me up in various parts, for I dwell in many places and enter into many forms. So Vak is all-pervading, all-powerful. Okay, is the slide clear? I didn't ask. We'll run like 5 slides. Is it clear? Okay. And again, what is the significance of alphabets? Like, as I said, sound comprises of words and words comprise of alphabets. And the very word akshara, that is to ksha, they're called aksharas. And the Sanskrit definition of a dictionary definition of akshara means itself is imperishable, indestructible. Okay. And one of the schools of the Hindu tradition, Varnavada, they say that alphabets themselves have divine potency. It's not that they need to have a meaning. Words by alphabets by themselves are divine and are capable of revealing some truth. If we notice, there are several bija aksharas in the Hindu tradition, and there is alphabets in combinations, you see, like Hreem, Kleem, Shreem. They are all representing the goddess herself. Gam represents Ganesha. So alphabets in different combinations are called bija aksharas, and they represent the very deity. And of course, the most sacred of all alphabets is Om, which is a combination of A, U, and Now, sound is, these are some of the references in Upanishad about what the Upanishad says about Om. Om is everything virtually. That's the most important thing. That syllable Om is truly Brahman. Brahma, Aksharam Brahma, Aksharam Param. So Om itself is Brahma. Now I will go to the Akshamalika Upanishad proper. Now, the word Akshamalika has two parts, Aksha, which means seed, and Malika, which is a garland. So basically, it is about the Japamala and what the significance of the Japamala. This is a Shaiva Upanishad, which belongs to the Rig Veda, and it's written in prose form. This Upanishad is a dialogue between Brahmaji and Kartikeya, and it's a later day Upanishad which incorporates both the Purana and the Tantra traditions. The Shanti mantra of this Upanishad itself starts with the word Vang, Vang me manasi pratishtham. That's the Shanti mantra. And what is the key teaching of this Upanishad? It superimposes tattvas on all the 51 alphabets, and each alphabet is considered sacred and has the ability to reveal some aspect of Ishvara. Brahmaji starts the inquiry. He asks Kartikeya, kindly tell me what are the distinct methods of Akshamala? That is, what are the characteristics of each garland? How many kinds of garlands are there? What are the kind of threads that one uses in a Japamala? What are the letters? What are the concepts behind the letters? What is the god representing these letters? And what is the result of chanting or using this Japamala? These are the questions of Brahmaji. And then Kartikeya gives these answers. He says that the beads can be made of gold, silver, rudraksh, lotus seed, sandalwood beads, and the threads can be made of gold, silver, and copper. This is what he says. The main teaching, of course, is, as I said, the Upanishad attributes a value or a quality to each alphabet from to Ksha. For example, alphabet it says, you are the winner of death, be seated on the first bead. So that's how the meditation goes. You place your hand on each bead, you think of the alphabet, and you think of the tattva. Then you are omnipresent by virtue of your magnetic power of attraction, be seated on the second bead. That's what it says. Then E, you are endowed of power and peace, be seated on the third bead. And it goes on, and the final akshara is Ksha, and it says, Ksha is, of course, the very para or Brahman, and it says, you are the teller of the essence existing in this and all that worlds, please enshrine on the Shikhamani. That's what it says. And, and the interesting part is that because Ishvara is everything, it's not just only positive values that are invoked. For example, O, the Akshara O, it's represented as you create burns, jealousy, and fever. You are defaced, enshrine on the 43rd beat. Then this teaching, this Upanishad uses a very interesting Shastric methodology, which is called Adhyaropa Apavada. In Adhyaropa Apavada, what one first does is one superimposes certain values on Brahman, Ishvara, and then those very values are negated. So how does the Akshamala Upanishad use this methodology? For the first 50 alphabets, it superimposes certain values. And in the 51st bead, it says that everything is para, everything is Brahman. It kind of negates all the previous values. Negates doesn't not say that they're not valid, but it negates by saying that everything is encompassed by the Akshara Ksha. So this Adhyaropa Apavada technique is used in this Upanishad. This is a later day Upanishad, so there are a lot of influences of the Purana. For example, the fact that it's a dialogue between Brahma and Kartikeya. This is a Upanishad which is very friendly towards the other mathas. This is a Shaiva Upanishad, but it's friendly towards Vaishnava and Shakta traditions. It acknowledges the Trimurti and says, for example, one of the verses says, the innermost thread of the Japamala, that is on which the beads are threaded, is Brahma, the right is Shiva, and the left is Vishnu, the mouth is Saraswati, and the tail is Gayatri. So it shows that very inclusive nature. Then the Tantra influence on the Akshamalika Upanishad, the very fact that it's meditating upon the Aksharas, that is actually a very tantric tradition. Tantras make a lot of use of alphabets and the divinity of alphabets. And then one of the verses, verse 15, talks about the tantric concepts of para, pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari. Para is, of course, the same as Brahman. That is the absolute reality which makes any speech possible. Pashyanti, madhyama, and vaikhari are three aspects of speech. Pashyanti is a very, very subtle form of speech, which is actually in the form at the thought level. Madhyama is at the prana level, where you are before it's literally residing in the throat before it is vocalized, and Vaikhari is the gross speech. So what the Upanishad says is that all these alphabets are enabling this kind of speech. And then the Akshamalika teaching in line with the Upanishad teaching. Basically, what is the purpose of any Upanishad teaching? Is to relieve us, free us from samsara. So this Upanishad also does this by revealing the knowledge of Brahman. The Ksha is the knowledge of Brahman. And then it also fulfills the other purpose, which is Upasana for Chitta Shuddhi. And there it is between A and Sa, the 50 alphabets, it highlights and it teaches various aspects of Ishvara, which help in getting punya and Chitta Shuddhi. This is, of course, this Upanishad provides a pramana for the 108 bead Japamala. That's another secondary teaching. And then before the Phalashruti, of course, it says that those who read this Upanishad in the morning, they will be absolved of all the sins committed in the night. And those who read this Upanishad in the night will be absolved of all the sins committed in the morning. And then Lord Guha says that whoever does a silent japa on this Upanishad, for them all the results will fructify immediately. And then I want to end here by saying that what is the uniqueness of this Upanishad? The most important thing is the divinity of each alphabet. This association, each alphabet, we have seen bija aksharas, we have seen the significance of Om, we have seen bija aksharas being spoken in the tantras, but the divinity of each alphabet, a standalone alphabet, is very unique. We don't see this in any other Upanishad. This Upanishad helps to inculcate a very prayerful attitude in seekers. For example, many values such as Ishvara is all-powerful, Ishvara is the karma phala data, they are all mentioned in each of the beads, and these values are inculcated. This helps to inculcate a prayerful attitude. It highlights the importance of japa sadhana, and it's a really wholesome Upanishad. It has both the Brahma Vidya and it also reveals upasanas, and then it's very inclusive in its nature. Despite being a sectarian Upanishad, despite being a Shaiva Upanishad, it has immense respect for both the Vaishnava and the Shakta tradition. So that's what I have to present. And I will just end with a prayer here. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. And if there are any questions, feel free, or comments, please feel free to share.
Thank you, Anuradha ji, for that crisp presentation on the interesting Akshamalika text. The aksharas means the pranavaksharas, A, U, Ma, they have been discussed in the traditional or the ancient Prashnopanishad itself. So, and then probably taking inspiration from that, these Upanishads have developed it to each of the alphabet in the Aksharamala, it seems. So that might be the origins of, or the origins of inspiration for Akshamalika Upanishad. This was the only observation I just wanted to make. So it was an interesting Nagaraji, would you want to comment?
No, just this Akshamalika as an idea is widely prevalent. The Akshamalika in the hand of Saraswati as one of the Ayudhas in sculptures actually is a representation of this only. And these representations probably historically are older than the time of this later Upanishad. This Upanishad seems to be a later Upanishad. And actually the idea of Vyakarana as yoga that Professor Shastri keeps on campaigning for and working for is a very, very important aspect. And this, as Anuradha ji has already mentioned, this is also part of that Vag Yoga only, Vyakarana as yoga. For the West, the disciplines like linguistics or psychology or all these are not for any spiritual practice. Actually, they desist from making academic disciplines. For them, they look at it as religious. So making something as religious, they desist. But here, linguistics is being made into a spiritual practice. That is what the whole thing about Vakyapadiyam and Bhartrihari's Vag Yoga. Asannam Brahmanas Tatra, he says. And this particular Akshamalika approach is phonetics as spiritual practice. For them, phonetics also is there. They can talk about phonetics, teach phonetics, everything. But how phonetics can be a spiritual practice is all about Mantra Shastra. The entire Mantra Shastra is all about how phonetics and phonemics is a spiritual practice. And to meditate upon each of the alphabet and letters are not correct words. They are just poor borrowings from English. So the best word, our own Sanskrit words we can use, like Akshara, Varna, Varnamala is the word we use. We have our own word Varnamala. And John Woodruff, who writes about Tantra, his first book he calls Garland of Letters. It is about Mantra Shastra. So those aspects of dhyana on Varna, dhyana on Akshara is all about phonetics being a spiritual practice, an inward practice. This is unique to Hinduism. And as we have been repeatedly saying, the artificial friction between science and religion that came because of modern day developments, modern European history developments in Europe, they do not fit for Hinduism. In Hinduism, there is no conflict between science and religion. Hinduism is a religion which is science. Hinduism is a religious culture which is actually science as a religion, science as a spiritual practice. This is an example of how phonetics as a science, a perfect science. Let us remember that through Siksha and Pratishakyas, for the preservation of Vedic pronunciation, the Vedic rishis excelled. They took it to the extreme through Siksha Shastra, the science of phonetics. It is as scientific as any science can be, that phonetics of Siksha. And such a science is actually made into a spiritual practice here. And I keep repeatedly saying in my career discipline called anthropology, that all indigenous cultures all over the world, all tribal cultures, what they call forest cultures or ethnic groups, have their own spell culture. They have supernatural powers. They have a belief that there are spiritual supernatural powers rested in spells, but they do not have a science about it. It is Hinduism that provides a science for what all ethnic groups of the world have as a spell philosophy, a philosophy of spell, mantra. Only in Hinduism we have a Shastra for this. Thank you, Anuradha ji, for reminding us and for inspiring us to think about this particular topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Indik, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anuradha ji.